I really enjoy that podcast, and him and Michael Malice, another genius. And then you also kind of just like fit right in there, and you make a lot of really good points for the conversation. So a bunch of really highly intelligent individuals. A pleasure for me to listen to your guys' podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I bring a different thing than Malice. I was once on air when Malice came in, and like I just had to sit back and listen at that point.
Oh yeah, he's on another level. But you come at it from a comedic standpoint. I love how you just kind of throw something in that's outlandish just to be funny, and because it's a comedy show, but it is about politics. We're talking about Part of the Problem with Dave Smith, who is frequently guest host here with my very special guest, Robbie the Fire Bernstein. Super pumped. I was really actually a little bit nervous because you're one of the, like I would say, the biggest guest we've ever had. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, it's an honor. I was nervous. I'm talking to the CEO of SHEATH Underwear, a visionary person who created holes for your penises. Usually you need to track down the live lady for that, but no, not with you. You're with my SHEATH Underwear. My penis has a home 24/7.
And you have been very, flattering over the course of working with you since, we started working with Gas Digital. SHEATH sponsors a bunch of the Gas Digital Network podcasts, all of which are good, really good stuff, man. You guys have like because I'm a podcast junkie, and you guys just have something really good going on. Or maybe I'm a little biased because I'm working with you, but I really enjoy it.
No, be biased, man. I mean, I came to the network because I like the content, so I'm pretty proud of what we're putting out there.
Right? Yeah. So, and how would you mind just kind of briefly, how did you get involved with the Gas Digital Network?
So I got involved with Gas because I go way back with Louis J. Gomez and Dave Smith. I knew them from years before Gas Digital was in existence, doing spots at the LOL Comedy Club. That's kind of where I met them and started hanging out with those guys a whole bunch. And I was working a sales job, and Louis was like, why don't you come over and do the sales, for me? And I was like, yeah, what the hell? Why don't I go do that? And now it's 3 years later, and I still have a job. So, it's worked out okay.
Yeah, you're doing good. You got a big client. You got a big fish. And I'm speaking of us, SHEATH, because we've grown our expense with the network over the past, I guess, about year since we've been working with you guys, because you guys are doing a good job.
Well, I'm a big fan of, you ever read the book The Go-Giver by Bob Burg?
No, but I'm a big fan of self-help books, and I would is that the category?
Yeah,
it would be.
It is. I would put it into the self-help / business category. It's a really little book. It might be 100 pages, and it's a really simple story. But he basically looks at business from a value perspective, and he really sold me on that. I would say, to me, the ultimate example is kind of Trader Joe's. I like spending money at Trader Joe's. I'm happy to go there and spend my money because I know that I'm getting good value. And then I look at the Trader Joe's in New York City, and they got lines out the door. You got lines of people who are happy to spend their money there because the things are priced well and they feel like they're getting something that they want that's worth their money. And so that's the way I like to operate my business. I like to be value oriented. Firstly, that's when you feel good about what you're doing because, you're doing well by people. And so it feels good because you're like, man, I'm helping people out, which, to not just be able to help people out but get paid for it, that's kind of like the ideal. And so as much as possible, we do try and create returns for the people that we're working with. But I just also find, from a business standpoint, if you're putting out a good quality product, people come back, they keep buying and buying and buying. And so that's just an easier way of doing business. I'm lazy. I don't want to have to get new clients all the time. Exactly. It's a pain in my ass. So I'd rather make sure the ones that are here are making money, and then I don't really have to do all that much.
No, yeah, the return customer, it's much cheaper to keep her, or cheaper to keep a customer than to buy a new one. And we're constantly buying new ones with these ads, but we get that return. And once they come back, like you said, that's what we're saying, then it's all profit. And we had our best month of ever last month, and this year is turning out to be a lot better than I was thinking, given the circumstances of, you know, the coronavirus. And I guess that's pretty much it. And because that was affecting a lot of businesses, but not necessarily, and like you, and so you're like you're a business owner, if you will, by being a comedian, right?
Yeah, well, that business isn't doing as well as the ad sales business, but we're getting there. That's a real high risk, high growth reward model framework. So at some point, you know, we'll be full-time comedy. It will happen.
You're in the right circle for sure, and you're very articulate, and I hear your stuff you talk about on your podcast. I listened to your podcast, Run Your Mouth, on YouTube the other day, and you know, you were just talking about being in your car, and you're hustling, you know, you're doing it because for whatever reason. I do it for the love. I mean, and then the money for, you know, it's added bonus. But I love my job. I really do.
How did you find that you were specifically passionate about, like, are you just passionate about, hey, I get to be my own boss, run my own business, and get a quality product out there? Or was it specifically a passion for, I got a better idea for underwear, and then you just got really excited about it?
I like being in a leadership position where I have a team that I work with, because when I was in the Army, I had that structure and it gave me some sort of purpose, and I like having the purpose, and I get to be creative. I get to come up with new skits. I get to talk to you. I get to do podcasts, you know, come up with new designs and working with people. It's not so much that I'm passionate about underwear, because that would be a little bit weird, but I also like, yeah, I mean, I like working with our customers and making them happy. Talking about books, you said Give Do. Is that what it was? What was it?
The Go Giver.
Go Giver. Well, I read a book by Gary.
And by the way, can I just tell you, just to call out myself for being full of shit, that line that I said earlier of, if you can do something and help people out at the same time, I think that's from Boiler Room. So there you go. Good for me. I'm quoting Boiler Room.
Give credit where it's due. Is that what that was?
I'm more just calling myself out for being salesy.
Well, that's funny. Give, jab. That was the book I was going to talk about. Gary V. It's about, give, ask. You don't want to just ask all the time, give me your money, and then not give a return. In fact, you want to give more than the initial value, so that they keep coming back. And I've been telling my friends about your network, because my friend is about to go online with his kava business, and do you know what kava is? Kava.
No.
It's
kava. Yeah. I was at a kava bar once with a lady. That's I remember reading about kava all the way back in high school. It's like an all natural anti-anxiety thing, basically.
You are very smart. Yes. So shout out to Ohana Kava Bar, my boy Matt. He does really well, because he's kind of like a drug dealer, essentially. Just tastes really bad, right? Did you remember the taste?
But that's part of the thrill of it. It's almost it's almost better. Like the first time you smoked weed as a kid, you coughed your fucking brains out. But we're men. That's part of the thrill. It's like eating something super spicy, or the first time you smoked, the first time you drank. That's part of it. Is, man, this shit is fucking gross, but I'm gonna power through it. So I think when it comes to think about how many people dip. Have you ever dipped? I think maybe I dipped once. It's the grossest thing in the fucking world. But those people said, I'm going to power through this because fucking, I'm a dude. So if you got a drug, you almost, if you got a drug, you almost want it to be the gnarlier the better, because then people feel prouder of themselves for kind of going after that high.
Yeah. I mean, you reminded me, it's kind of like doing a line of ice or something that really burns your nose. Just kidding.
What is ice? Is ice another word for coke, or is that a word for crystal meth? Yeah, like meth. That makes sense. I've never done meth, so I can't comment.
I know.
How was being up for a week?
It totally fucked up my sleep to this day. So I definitely don't recommend it. And I was I didn't think a lot of people would be able to identify with that statement, which is kind of funny. Just like, Everybody did
Now
meth,
you're
right?
missing a tooth, so I believed it. I believed
You got me. You got me, you dirty rat. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Yeah, I'm working on getting that replaced.
it. No, I'm telling you, dude. I thought you looked cooler without it. It looks like you just were in one really good hockey fight. It
Yeah,
adds a flavor of toughness. I think you should fucking go with it.
I'm definitely rocking it. I'm definitely not shied away like too much because I have the the bridge tooth that I can put in, but I just rock it because it does add a little bit of character to my. And I'm thinking about the replacement. Is it gold? Is it regular? Is it a swappable kind of thing? I'm not sure. I gotta come up with. But I remember I was in a detention center when I was 21, and it was in the middle of Georgia. I was one of very few white people and a bunch of black dudes, and this one guy had a gold tooth just right in the front, and it looked really cool. And I've always kind of wanted one, but I've been
I
heavily
think the
advised
move on that is you got to get
against.
like maybe even just get a gold piece of paper and hold it up and see if it
Mhm.
works for your look. I
Yeah,
think you might need like a face tattoo to balance it out or something.
That's a good move, though. I think just go ahead and do that. Try it out before I go permanent with it. I think that's a good
Yeah, just
call.
before you make the full investment, unless like you have a friend whose grandparents going to pass away soon and you might be able to get a gold tooth on the cheap, you might want to just try it out first, see if it fits your personality.
But it's a new age, I am my own boss. I can do it. I mean, I could just get neck tattoos and get all crazy if I wanted to.
Or
So
here's another idea, kind of like you got different patterns for the underwear. Maybe you can get like different colored teeth every day of the week just to switch it up, maybe match it to your watch, just keep it interesting.
neon icon. Do you know who that is? Riff Raff. Have you ever
No,
heard of
who is
him?
that?
Riff Raff is a
No.
white rapper from Texas, Florida, and we started sponsoring him not that long ago, and he's called the Neon Icon. He has a really hit single on YouTube called "Tiptoeing in My Jordans," and he's kind of almost like a comedic rapper, but he's a millionaire and he's doing really good. And we're working with him on a collaboration pair, and he wears a lot of bling, so that's kind of why I brought him up, because I'm trying to be like Riff Raff, I guess. I'm not sure, but I'm
Hey,
also trying to be like you guys. So it's a dichotomy. What were you gonna
I
say?
got a wild amount of ADD. I'm curious to know what you did in the Army.
I was a specialist,
Does that
mortuary
mean you
therapy.
killed a ton of people? That sounds
Yeah,
like the best way to describe either torturing or murdering a lot.
I saw a lot of dead bodies. We could say that, and I was really
All right.
good
No
in
judgments.
my position. I was a lead. I made it to the sergeant level, which is anyone that's made it to outside of just like regular enlisted private specialist. That's a rank. Specialist is also a rank, but I made it to sergeant, and I led a
Sergeant
team.
Specialist? Sergeant
No,
Special?
Sergeant Patton. I had the weird name Patton because General Patton in the Army, so everyone's like, "You related to the general?" All the time, every day,
Right.
of course. But I excelled, which I would, not humble brag, typically do, and in everything I like try. So I became a leader. I led my team to Iraq on my second tour for 6 months, which is where I came up with the idea for Sheath. So I wasn't doing too much. The war had died down, if you will, no pun intended. It was like on my second tour, it was not as gruesome. My first tour was non-stop.
Was your first tour in Afghanistan?
They were both in Iraq, actually, but it was more.
Okay.
It was in a place called Mortaritaville, Balad, Iraq, and so they were shooting mortars over the walls, and we would constantly get those alerts and sirens and have to go get under bunkers all the time, to the point where I stopped getting out of bed because it's like, if it fucking lands on you, it's gonna, what I'm saying, it's gonna land on you, and I was tired. So you get desensitized if to an extent.
Can you now just sleep through anything because of that?
I cannot sleep at all, actually.
Well,
I'll tell
that
you,
went the other way.
well, I'll tell you a quick story. So I'd been working for 24 hours straight, and my team, we had a special mission, so 24 hours straight, and we were exhausted. And I'd just gotten in bed when, I'm like laying there, maybe a few minutes, and then I heard these gravel footsteps walking to the door, and then the knock on the door, and I was so exhausted that it sent like a shockwave through my body. And I remember it to this day because I was like, no. I was like, we got another job. And I was like, no. Because we work 24 hours. When you're over there, it's 24/7. Like, basically, if there's something that needs to be done, you got to do it. You don't. But so we're on call, but the whole time. But I was like saying on the second tour, we barely had any work, so that was good. But it was still really hot, and that's when I came up with the idea for Sheath. And I was always pretty entrepreneurial as far as my thinking. I was always hustling, trying to make a couple bucks. So it was relatively natural to move forward with this when I had the idea. Although it did take a little bit of cajoling, I think that's the right word, from my brother. You spoke with him yesterday. He's like the producer also. Shout out Tanya.
Oh, I didn't realize that was your brother. Okay.
Yeah, he's my younger brother, and he just, I told him about it, and he was like, he really liked the idea. And everyone I told, no one ever was said that's stupid, really. Like maybe a couple people since, 10 years have passed now, people be like, that's stupid. I don't even wear underwear is one of the comments we get. But back then everyone was like, I could see how that would be useful. And so that kept me going, because it was a long journey to bring it from the idea to the market and to where we are right now. It's been a long time. And one of my favorite books is called Think and Grow Rich. And one of the principles of success is persistence and, never giving up. So I'm really glad that I read that book because it's just taught me not to give up, because a lot of people give up at the first sign of defeat or any kind of challenge or difficulty. And I had quite a few of those throughout, the developing the company. And so I just really recommend that book. Where I do like to provide a couple of little tidbits of knowledge. And that's the one I beat home. Like I'll drive pretty much every episode. I say Think and Grow Rich because it's almost my Bible.
I think I've read parts of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I don't know that I've read the entire thing. Every once in a while I'll pick it back up and read a chapter, but I'm definitely a fan of self-help books in general.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a little hard to read, but
you ever see the original Papillon, that movie?
No. Is it like a drama? Like a Hollywood movie?
I recommend it. It's with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman. They recently did a remake, which is not as good. It's definitely a long movie, but it's one of my favorite movies ever. And it definitely showcases the power of persistence. It's about the only guy who ever escaped from Devil's Island. He also wrote a book, and in the book he even has like 20 failed prison escapes before he finally pulled off the one that worked. And the one that works is not the most thoughtful of plans. It's like kind of the one that just was a freak show that it worked. But, I even played hockey in high school. Well, not real hockey. We played stupid Jew hockey. There was no skating around. We were just running without skates and playing with a ball. So it was its own little weird version of hockey. But like part of the way we played the game was just trying to keep the ball in their zone. And it's like if you just keep the ball in their zone for long enough, you just get the bounces that go the right way. And that, to me, that's the power of persistence. Like if you just kind of, it's very rarely the things you think are going to work that end up working. But if you just got the foot on the gas and you're being persistent and you're always looking for those opportunities, you just get the bounces that go the right way.
I like your attitude, sir. That's probably where you're at. Are you like how old are you?
I think I'm 32.
But still, I started Sheath right around that time, just to give you like a idea. You're still like you're young. That's good. I like it. I did have a question because I listened to, Part of the Problem. As soon as it comes out, I'm like on it. It's kind of weird, but especially with everything happening with Biden and Trump and the coronavirus, and it's I love hearing your guys' perspective. But every intro, it cracks me up. He says, Robbie the Fire Bernstein, the king of the cocks, and I'm like, what is that? And I think you explained it a little bit more today, or in the latest episode. But it's like caucus is. I think it might have something to do with a caucus, but I'm not sure. Would you mind explaining that?
Absolutely. So this goes way, way back. Probably this might be a joke going on for 2 full years, but they started within the Libertarian Party. I'm going to say 2 years ago. They started the Mises Caucus. I think it's pronounced Mises, but this is how dumb I really am. It might be Mises, whatever. I think it's Mises, right? And so basically what they were trying to do is they looked at what Gary Johnson did, and they're like, let's get an actual libertarian on the ticket. And the idea more than anything is not necessarily winning the presidency, but getting someone who's really going to, represent libertarian values, or at least kind of like what Ron Paul did for a lot of people, wake people up, get up on the debate stage and actually defend, not really just defend, but turn people on to the values of liberty and what real freedom is, and what are some better ideas for prosperity and for financial growth and self-responsibility, all these values. Let's actually get someone up there that's going to represent us well and speak to these. And so they started the Mises Caucus. And so as a joke, I was like, that's, I hate the name. You're never going to be able to market it. Let's at least call it the Me Caucus. You know what? I'll give them free marketing. You can call me the king of the cocks. That's it. From now on, I'm in charge of this thing. And, we just kind of ran with it. So ever since then, I've just proclaimed myself the king of the cocks, and the actual Mises Caucus was kind of happy to have me as their leader.
That's hilarious. I love that. I mean, I don't even know what that is. The Mises Caucus. Isn't that it's a group?
That's the point. The Me Caucus is more marketable. You're like, I could see myself as a part of the Me Caucus. And it talks about me, and it's got cocks. What else can I need?
Nothing. That's everything you would ever need. So you're like a full-blown like libertarian, or you like the anarcho-capitalist and this, that, and what? What are you?
I mean, yes and no. I already feel like I'm in too deep. I honestly, I'm really just trying to be a comedian more than anything, and I'm just trying to find the funny and stuff.
Yeah.
I do it like, if you want to talk to the things that I'm like 100% on, it's one, government, they're really stupid and inept, so let's just have less of it.
Yeah.
2 is, I really don't really don't understand the way that we run the deficits that we do, and I think that those are really counterproductive. So in that regard, I'm like an old school, just fiscally conservative person. I just really don't understand. It's not just that I don't understand it. It's that now that I'm a little bit more knowledgeable, I see how nefarious the deficit spending is. And it's like kind of the biggest tool of corruption. From there, I kind of think that like where I defer maybe from the absolute, anarchists a little bit. I think that maybe government's a necessary evil, and I think some people really like the structure, and they couldn't really wrap their head around the fact that we could live without a government. And I think if people see value in it and they want it, they should be allowed to have it. But I think that the more localized government is, the more that they have to actually, human beings were a form of capital, and we could force government to operate like businesses and actually provide services for us. So that we want to live in those areas. And that's kind of where we can, you get rid of the federal government, and like all of a sudden, people, they got to compete to have us there. And it's happening now. Some of these cities that are mismanaged, people are going to start fleeing those cities. They're going to lose those tax dollars. They're going to have a problem. You're already seeing the bill come due in states like Connecticut, states like Louisiana, where they had these like unbelievably corrupt mayors and governors that gave all this cash over to teacher unions and other unions that voted in voting blocks. Like, what you need is for the federal government not to bail out these horrible policies, and for people to realize, hey, I don't want to live in a bankrupt state. And then all of a sudden, states that were more fiscally conservative, that's what I'm saying. Like, human beings are a form of capital, And so if government's more localized, you know, us choosing to live in places because they represent our values means that we can have, like, you know, government structure that actually represents our values. I just ranted a whole bunch there. The point is, when it comes to minarchy, anarchy, absolute libertarian, I'm not that smart. I'm not that principled. I'm really just trying to be funny, and I'd be okay with never having to discuss politics again. But what I can tell you for sure is I think, like, government's bad, so the smaller and more localized it is at least a better option.
Well, just to give you like a tiny perspective on, like, I worked for the government. I was in the Army. So much money wasted, so much time, so much standing around, like, doing nothing, waiting. And I'm pretty sure that's like a microcosm of the government. And it's also very socialist, which was an interesting way to live because, you know, we had our housing, we had our food, we had medical. So it did allow us to
But sometimes you had to kill people.
Yeah, because they wanted us to focus on the mission, and it was fun. And I did really well in just the overall Army. You know, it's like I was a big kid playing Army. You know, it's like, what else do you want? I get to shoot guns and be like on jungle gym.
And it's the best thrill ever, right? Like, you literally cannot compete with the thrill of that.
No, it does make a normal life mundane, which is why I'm so blessed to have Sheath, because I have my own little mini army and purpose. And people mention all the time, you know, what are you going to do? How much are you going to sell it for? Whatever. I don't want to sell it. I never want to sell it. I just want to keep doing it because it's fun, and and it gives me something to, you know, wake up for in the morning. And I could do something else, but it's pretty cool. And so I'm going to keep doing it. But so government's full, like, a lot of waste, and I feel like they're all criminals and they're all corrupt. And that's why I'm like listening to what you guys say, and you're way more articulate, but I'm like, yeah, these motherfuckers know what the deal is. Like, I want more people to listen to the show to learn the principles of liberty, because we're fucking being controlled, like, in a sick way by the media, like pushing these narratives on us, and people are like turning against each other. And I'm sitting here like, what did I do? But I'm like the bad guy, and it's all internal in our minds, because they're pushing those ideas of, you're white, and I'm not even fully white, but whatever, you know, I look white, I grew up white, and like Jews are not white, if you will, but like we're all kind of in that same bucket, and being like not seemingly discriminated against by the media as these evil doers. And it's weird. It's so weird at this time in history, but fascinating. And that's why, you know, you said you're in too deep about politics, and I feel kind of the same way, but it's like you can't really avoid it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that. I feel like oddly lucky in that I mean, I grew up like very religious Jewish, and a lot of times, like, as a kid, I mean, up until, you know, probably like 21, 22, if I was out in public, I was wearing like a yarmulke. And let me tell you, when I was out in public, like, wearing a yarmulke, I felt like other. And so when it came to, like, you know what I mean? I didn't feel like I was part of, like, the in group. I felt like I was in the outside group. People would look at you weird. You get on a train, like, a kid would be like, hey, what's that kid wearing? Like, you know what I'm saying? I was the outside group. I was other. And then also, not that my parents, you know, grew up in Nazi Germany. Luckily, my parents, grandparents, and even great-grandparents were all living in America. Not on my mom's side. I think my mom's great-grandmother somehow got out of Serbia or whatever that fucked up place in Russia was. But anyways, like, a lot of my friends' grandparents, they're all out of, like, Nazi Germany, you know, survived Auschwitz or survived. One of my best friend's grandparents was one of the only survivors of the Warsaw Ghetto. So just like, probably we're talking 10 years ago when the white guilt thing became like a very trendy thing. Like, I was just like, well, you're not talking to me. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. My parents weren't here in this country enslaving black people. We were slaves in Nazi Germany. Like, I'm not, like, whatever group of people you're trying to impose some shame and guilt on, I could very easily disassociate myself from and be like, well, that's not me. I don't know, like, who you're trying to shame into this, but I'm not that group of people. But what's definitely happening now, which I really do kind of passionately take an issue with, and I think you're kind of, putting a finger on it as well, is that I know that not only do I know that like I'm a good person, I know that I got into politics somewhat because I was reading books about why nations fail. That's an interesting book about why is it that some nations, you end up with people that are destitute, poor, and you got other nations that are really successful. That was one of the first books I read, and I was like, became fascinated with this, like, what do we need? What is the political frameworks that we need for people to live and be able to pursue prosperity? And I'm really interested in that topic. And so I'm ranting once again. What's so interesting to me is you get like this leftist narrative that people like me that don't hold their values are evil. And it's like, wait a second, why am I evil? I came to this trying to figure out what might be better policies that are good for everybody, that will give everybody the opportunity to be prosperous. And that's what's so really like frustrating about this, is that people who haven't done as much research as I have, and frankly don't care about the issues as much as I have, take this bona fide position that because I don't agree with them, I'm evil. They're not even open to discussing the ideas. They're not even willing to see how what they're preaching is more government, and government is based on, it's predicated on force, and force is a aspect that erodes competition, and so it decreases value. And so what you're noticing in your own life, and this becomes something more and more I feel like we really need to fight against, is there's these forces that are telling us that because we don't agree with them, we don't swear by their party lines, we're not just wrong, we're evil. And yet so much of their party lines are based on lies. Like, and it turns around more often than not when I say this thing that they're trying to get you to swear allegiance to, and here's why, 3 months later I turn out to be right. Here's the most recent example.
Is it that bad? Or do they just make it look way worse than it is? I think they make it look way worse than it is.
Well, yeah, I think they can take any you gotta almost look at the numbers. They can take any freak occurrence and make it look like it's like the movie Jaws. When the movie Jaws came out, people were afraid to go to the beach that summer. That was a real thing. Was there more of a risk of shark attacks than the prior year? Was there even, a lot of risk of shark attacks? No, but people saw the movie Jaws and they were fucking terrified of it. It's the same thing with the news. There might be, statistically, you go into school might be the safest place on earth. I don't know that that's true, but I'm just saying theoretically, statistically, being in a school building might be the world's safest place to stand. But if you've got one school shooting a year and the news, plays the footage of it every single day, people are going to be afraid to go to school. We're not smart. If something is being repeated over and over on television, we think that that's like the norm because we see it all the time on television. It might be the footage over and over of one freak occurrence. They can get footage of one guy getting struck by lightning, and if every time I turn on CNN, that's the footage, I'm like, oh shit, I guess people are getting struck by lightning all the time. We're fucking stupid.
Right, I'm not going outside. And yeah, just the replaying of all the police brutality, it just makes it seem like it's everywhere. And so, but I mean, I've been arrested a few times. So just as like a white person, I can tell you the police they can be fucking assholes, especially if you did something wrong. And I did something wrong. Now, I was very polite when I, got arrested so that it didn't get worse. But they're not going to be nice to you, I think whether you're white or whatever race, if you did something wrong, whatever, you're going to go to jail most likely.
Can I ask you about jail?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Is it like as rapey and bad as people claim the hardened jails to be, or is it just kind of scary? But you can get by, lift some weights, and hang out with people.
It was a lot of scariness, more scary, not so much rapey. That like I remember I got choked out by the warden once, or no, the assistant warden, but also by a couple of the other inmates. Not choked out totally, but like showed like I could fuck you up right now if so just.
But how do those guys? I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to know what your actual dimensions are, but coming out of Iraq, I mean, you must both be kind of cool in those situations and must have some kind of fighting experience. So this was pre-war.
Yeah, pre-war. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and and someone might say, well, how did you get in the Army? You know, the reason I got into the Army was because they were taking anyone at that particular
Right.
time, 2006 Fallujah Triangle, like heat of the war. So I got some waivers and I even got a bonus, and I really like changed my life. I think it really made me a better person, more of a man, more mature. It tested me against all my peers. I went to basic training at 26 with 260 other people, not the most people in the world, but like I beat them all in physical fitness. And that is a testament of your will. Like, cause I'm not a gifted, I'm 5'8", 160, just a average white looking dude, whatever. No athletic ability, what more than just average.
I gotta tell you though, that's pretty fucking fit in my book. I'm 5'6", and if I could weigh 160, I'd be the happiest person in the world. Like 165 is like a good chubby weight for me. I'm currently like probably 185, and I'm not totally out of shape, and I'm 5'6", so 5'8", 160. That's not horrible dimensions right there. It's a little scrawny, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not too shabby. You know, I've always paid attention to my fitness, and because I always had to try harder than my counterparts because I wanted to be in the NBA when I was in high school.
All
But
right.
but having no gift, physical talent or height or speed, I was a little bit coordinated, but I just really had to push myself so much harder than even my other like average white looking friends. Like they were always way better than me. And then when it got to playing in, like in high school and stuff with black guys or just other taller white guys that, whatever, I just never had it easy. So I always had to push myself way harder. And that actually, transitioned well into other, the rest of my life, I think. When it can, for the Army, and for whatever reason, maybe I just have this iron will of determination. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And it was developed through that, challenges growing up. Cause did you play any sports or anything?
So I played hockey in high school, but that was basically it. Yeah. Yeah, it was competitive. I mean, it was a competitive league. It was, at the end of the day, it was floor hockey, so we were playing half a sport, but it was competitive.
Yeah. Well, I think competition is good, and it just like in the free market, like now with Sheath, if you will, I'm competing with other businesses, and it's, fortunately there's enough room for all of us to like make money, but it's still fun to look at my competitors and try to do better than them.
Who do you see as who are like the three biggest competitors to you?
Saks underwear, my package. No, not my package. They rebranded. 2Under. Sepratech is a really good brand. I'm open for people to try these other brands with the pouches because we get a lot of these other companies customers also. And as long as you're trying pouch underwear, then you're in our wheelhouse, and I feel like we'll get you sooner or later.
Oh, so you actually, that's interesting. I've heard this before, but part of your brand is the education that, especially, firstly, your underwear is more comfortable, but particularly if you're in hot climates or if you're doing exercise, there's a necessary component to your undergarments. And so the more these people are out there educating people to the fact that there's this other option in male underwear, you're able to piggyback their marketing because you've got the better products. You're almost like, let these people spend as much money as they want marketing. I want as many people just interested in, my style underwear. And then at some point I'm going to convert them to my brand because I'm just, better quality than these other players.
That's exactly right. And I've tried the other underwear, and I could tell you which one it would be like second best and third and whatnot. And so it goes Sheath, right? I'm biased. And then probably 2Under. There is a couple of other underwear companies like, and this is one, my nemesis of all times is MeUndies, because just because of Joe Rogan, and we always wanted to sponsor his podcast, and they sponsor it, and it's a sore spot. But we got Gas Digital, bitches. Am I right?
There you go.
And Mikey B, DJ Mikey B, and Louis J, baby boy. I love your guys' stuff. And Malice. And then I listen to Tuesdays with Stories. I love those guys. Do you know those two at all?
I've hung out with both of them. Not as much recently. I would say like 4 years ago, doing stand up, I used to see them around more and hang out with them more. But both of them have always been like, really nice to me, and they're fucking unbelievable comedians.
I know. I love they feed off of each other really well. So, I used to. I've listened. At one point I could say I listened to every Joe Rogan podcast, like from pretty much front to finish. But I barely listen to them now, and I feel like you guys have good shit, and I want other people to know that. How can I help you guys? You know what I mean? Besides what I'm doing.
That's good. Well, yeah, man, you're doing your part. I got to be honest. You're coming through. At the end of the day, we got to monetize to keep this thing up and running. So you're the perfect partner for us because, firstly, you got a good product. It fits our demographic. The fans that have converted like it, which means you're only going to continue to grow. But more than anything, you've got a lot of other companies that are just reluctant to sponsor anything that doesn't fit the leftist narrative, doesn't fit the PC culture. And so companies like you that are willing to go, no, firstly, I'm not just going by these rules. I don't understand them. I don't understand why you get to impose them on me. But also there's a good audience here for me to market to. So fuck it. I'm going to market here. That's, and you've gone, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and you've also gone further than that because you were going to be, Skankfest will eventually happen, sadly, because of the coronavirus. But that's the other thing is you're coming on for one Skankfest. Once you love it, I think you'll be on board for more live events. But there's nothing better than that brands that make sense for our fan base, they're also not willing to throw away good profits because they're concerned about, PC bullshit. Bobby the Bank's not bad. You're bankrolling podcasts and original content. Bobby the Bank, man.
Run Your Mouth podcast. When you have a new one releasing soon? No, is it out yet?
I just put out a good podcast. I think you would like it. First half is pretty. I got some jokes in there. The second half, I was really talking about supporting the sponsors that support us. So I think you might like the message of that one. Oh, but yeah, that's my personal podcast, Run Your Mouth podcast. Probably going to do another one over the weekend. And then, part of the problem is, 2-3 times a week.
Yes, you guys have to listen to Part of the Problem for sure. Watch the Libertas comedy special. Shout out Dave Smith.
Yeah, that thing's so good.
So good. And Run Your Mouth. But okay, so the last one you did as of, I guess, like a couple days ago was in March that I saw.
No, that's just what's on. No, that's what's up on YouTube. If you download podcasts from wherever you're downloading podcasts, we're weekly. So I've put out a lot since March.
Well, because there was like 3 different Run Your Mouths on there, and I didn't see it. So that's all.
I know that is so annoying to me. Can I tell you a funny story? Firstly, I had the name first, and I don't understand why iTunes allows you to make podcasts under the same name. I don't get that. It should be like domain names for website. If somebody already has it, then they have it. So I was 100% absolutely there first with the name, and I like the name because I feel like it's very true to form that I'm just running my mouth. That's what I'm doing, guys. So there was another podcast called Run Your Mouth, and as a joke, I tried to reach out to them with an olive branch, being like, it's funny that we both started a podcast under the same name. I will challenge you to who gets to keep the name. And I was really just thinking, hey, we could get 2 or 3 funny episodes about this. And they're about running. That's their thing. I was like, maybe I'll challenge them to running. I'm fat and slow. Maybe they can compete with me in comedy. And then we could do a third event that's like mutual territory. Winner keeps all. It'll be fun. We'll both have a laugh. They checked out my content and reported the episode for defamation, and it got like removed from fucking iTunes, dude.
God, I hate. Well, these people, man, I don't get it. I think you're funny.
That's the world we live in. They stole my podcast name, and I was like, okay, whatever. So iTunes has a bad system here where two people can have the same name. I was like, I don't think it's good for either one of us that we both have the same podcast name, because if people are interested in theirs and look it up, they might find mine. And if people are looking up mine, they might find theirs. So why not one of us will have to move on? And I wanted to challenge them on fun terms, and, you know, they wouldn't have it.
Well, you keep talking, because I love your message. I think you're, and do you write some stuff before you go on there, or do you just kind of rant?
So the answer is, for Part of the Problem, I go in with nothing. For Run Your Mouth, it's I do a lot of prep for them.
Yeah, well, it seemed very funny, like a lot of really clever. You're very clever with your observations and stuff, and you know. So I'm a fan, and if I can pull it up on my phone, I'm gonna subscribe. I was trying to, but I'll figure it out. And
I wouldn't say it's not scripted, but like I really spend my time kind of laying it out, and there's hard jokes in there. By hard jokes, I mean like I sat down, I read a news story, I wrote like a monologue style joke. It's not that the whole episode is that way, but there are hard jokes in there, meaning like I wrote a joke beforehand and I'm telling it like the way I wrote it.
Dude, there was you had me cracking up. You were like, all right, we're about to get serious. And then you were just, I imagine you re-edited it and like laid down a fart track.
I remember that one. Where like I really built up to the fact that we were going to get into some serious topics, and then I downloaded just a gigantic fart noise, and then I ended up discussing serious topiks. But yeah. I just wanted to let people know that we're not, you know, taking ourselves too seriously. I remember that. That was a good one. I'm glad you liked it.
I did, man. I don't give up, stay persistent, and that thing that Dave always says, you know, I'm the most consistent motherfucker, you know, on the planet or whatever, which I think that's going to pay off for both of you guys. And I'm honored, happy to be part of your guys' broadcasts, and happy that you guys like our product. And so I look forward to working and growing together over the next decade. And so on that note,
hell yeah. Wait, can I ask you one more question before we call it an episode?
I can stay here all day with you, Robbie the Fire.
I want to hear about your MMA training, because I know at one point I was going through your Instagram content. I saw that you were trying to fight one of your employees, and I was like, it looks like this guy's doing, you know, has some MMA skills. So I want to hear about this.
I definitely have been training since I was in my early 20s. Jiu-jitsu started off just in my house with my roommate, who was like getting trained at a gym, and he would train me when he got home. And that you get kind of like a rush from it all. The rolling, anyone that rolls knows the rolling is the fun part. The drilling and the training is less fun, but I had a really good foundation from that. And then I did end up going to a gym and training with a UFC fighter, Mike Guyman, good dude, and got a little bit more, you know, hardcore with it. Not hardcore. It was always really just kind of peripheral. I was never going to be a fighter, but just for the physical fitness aspect and the mental confidence that it gave me was just priceless. For sure. Like the way I walked changed when I started doing that. And life happens, I kind of stopped training, but I joined the Army, and the Army had instituted a combatives, which is based off of jiu-jitsu. And so I got to practice in the Army, and it's just kind of been an on and off thing. I joined a gym in San Antonio after I got out of the Army called Dominion MMA. The guy I think he didn't like me because he injured me. the coach, like the owner,
shit, that sucks.
Yeah,
that's the worst.
It was bad. He like fucked and pulled both of my shoulders out of their socket almost at the same time, and I think he did it on purpose. because I think he thought I was being disrespectful by smoking right before I came in. I'd smoke weed and then go in and train, but that's just the way I'd always done it. And I don't know, he never said anything, but I never went back there. And it had been a few years, and I've just been getting back into it. And so I joined a new gym recently called Victory MMA here in Colorado Springs. And this kid, Steven, shout out Steven Wiley, he's just been with us since the beginning, and he's our yoga instructor. Every other weekend he does a Kundalini yoga live on Facebook, and we've just had this kind of fitness competitive rivalry ever since I've known him, but he's way stronger, younger, and like more fit than me, but I have that like the older experience thing. So it's going to be like experience and training versus buck wild fitness dude. And if it goes how I would predict, it's not going to be pretty for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's fun, and I highly recommend martial arts to anyone, and especially if you, like kids, just to get that foundation and the confidence. It was priceless, like I said.
I need some formal training. Like I've had where like I work out at the gym. I don't really hit the heavy bag anymore whatsoever because I've just kind of injured too much stuff. But like if I'm hitting the heavy bag, like I kind of know enough, and it is like just self-taught off YouTube. Like I know enough like Muay Thai and spinning kicks and like power my punches that if you watch, like I'm telling you, people have like walked up and like, hey man, you training for a fight? Like if I'm just hitting a heavy bag, it's fucking like, oh, I think this guy knows how to fight. But the second it goes to sparring, it all goes out the window. Even with hockey, like I wasn't good with breathing. I get nervous. I get flinchy. I need to get my ass kicked and learn how to take a punch a little bit. And then I also have zero ground game. And I almost feel like with my build, I would be feistier and better with the ground. Because like I'm little, I don't have like good reach, but I kind of have a strong core. So yeah. I need a little bit of ground game and I need a little bit of sparring experience. But I just, how many things can you be competitive in? That's what gets me nervous. It's like I need to exercise to stay sane. I get so nervous about getting injured. I've injured everything. It sucks.
Oh, well, I mean, the training can be the cardio, and what you were just saying reminded me that this most recent gym I joined, they do jujitsu, and I did it there, but I primarily trained in boxing, and it was primarily hitting pads with the coach who was calling out the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 5,
yeah,
this and that. That is so fun, and it's actually kind of like a mentally stimulating exercise. Because when you think of boxing, you think it's like mindless and whatever, but it's not. It makes it a little bit more interesting if you think about it as a sweet science and not just this barbaric.
By the way,
yes.
And I think that training at some point comes in handy. I'm telling you, hitting the double end bag saved my life. You ever work out in a double end bag?
On the ground?
No, just a double end. It's like it's like the little ball with the rope on both sides, really responsive. Oh, yeah. You know what I'm describing?
Yeah. It's good. It's like it bounces back and forth real fast, kind of.
I'm telling you, dude, I used to once a week I was working out on the double end bag, and it makes you really good. First, it makes your response time good, but I found where it's really helpful is on the slips. And I was once at LOL late at night. A dude threw a bottle at my head. And, like, I'm telling you, like, I just slipped it so intuitively because, like, that reaction time of, like, putting up your hand and ducking was just, like, practiced 1,000 times on Saturdays. So since I've had that experience, it's just one experience, I'm like, dude, I got to train this shit. It's going to, like, at some point, you're going to have that one time where you're like, I'm happy I know this.
Yeah. And, I mean, you're still young and you just get in a gym. You can find a good one. Ideally, you can find a good one that's kind of convenient. That's the other thing is it's got to be you can't be going 2 hours out of your way like a professional fighter might. It's got to be like down the street.
Do you ever go up to the BMF ranch just to train? How far is that from you?
It's 5 hours from here, and I need to. I'm trying to get. I messaged him. I messaged him the other day. He made a really funny post on his story that was about like this lefty lager that they made for the new bar he put at the ranch. And he's like, and it's only for weak bitches, and you got to sit over in the corner and drink your little lefty lager. And I thought it was so funny, and I texted him, and he responded. But he did say I'm welcome anytime. So it's just a matter of me to get down there.
Well, you're living that good Colorado view. Sweet forest hills, nice views. Getting that high altitude training in.
Oh yeah, it's I know we were supposed to meet up, when you came in that earlier in the year, but it was like super far away, and I apologize. But hopefully next time you come in to the state, we can get together.
Next time. Yeah, those shows were fun, dude. I did 2 shows up at Steamboat. My friend Kyle put them together, and that was a really fun trip. I wish I could have spent more time out there, because I basically, it was nutty. I flew in, drove up there, did 3 days of skiing, 2 nights of comedy, and I flew in, I got in at midnight, got up there at 3 in the morning, and then last day of skiing I drove, to take a flight that night, kind of shit. So it was a pretty condensed 3 days, but it was fun.
One of the best conversations I've had on the RPG podcast. We are available on iTunes, Robert Patton Global, sponsored by Sheath Underwear, but that goes without saying. It's been an ultimate pleasure having this conversation with you. Hopefully we can do it again at some point.
Fuck yeah, man. Next time I'm out in Colorado, we'll fight. I'll roll with you, even though I don't know what that means.
We'll get it in. Thank you, everyone, and we're out.